Good afternoon. Thank you so much for making the time to join us today. We're going to give everybody 1 more minute to come in and settle in. So please take your time, settle in, grab a glass of water, whatever you like, and we'll get started here in about a minute. All right, well, let's get started. I still see a few people trickling in, but why don't we go ahead and get going? First of all, thank you again for joining us today. We're going to be talking today about integrating a chatbot into your candidate experience. Now, before we get started, a few housekeeping things from me. First of all, thank you so much again for making this time. We absolutely appreciate it. We love questions. Ask us as many questions as you like. You can ask those questions at any time during the Zoom using the Zoom Q&A. Please don't worry about taking notes or taking screenshots. The recording of the webinar today, as well as the presentation, will be shared with everybody. So we'd much rather you help us make this more interactive and ask us more questions. With that, let me introduce our speakers for today. Well, first of all, my name is Pankaj. I am one of the founders of Sense. We started the company a little over 7 years ago, and I've been here ever since. And with me, Christine and Keith, if you want to turn your videos on. All right, we've got Christine Small. Christine is the Director of HR at UF Health Jacksonville, that's University of Florida. And Keith Corrigan, who is the COO of Integrity Staffing. Welcome. Thank you so much for lending us your expertise as well as your time. We'd love to know a little bit more about you. Christine, why don't we start with you?
So UF Health is located in Jacksonville, Florida, and we are a private not-for-profit hospital. We are a level 1 trauma center affiliated with the University of Florida. We partner with the community and we want to improve the health of our community. We're also a teaching hospital, so we really feel that's important for not only physicians, but our nurses. We hire a lot of graduate nurses as part of that teaching. And we were ranked one of the best hospitals in America in 2020's health grades, which is top 5% nationwide in our clinical experience for our patients here. I've worked at the hospital. They're very generously put 13 plus years. It's been a little bit more. I have worked in different areas of the hospital, but primarily in human resources. I am currently over our comp and benefits area, our HR systems, and our communications, HR communications, which is how I fit into this. I have previously been over our recruiting team. We're very excited to share our experience with Sense today.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it. Keith, my friend, a little bit about you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Pankaj. As Pankaj said earlier, my name is Keith Corrigan. I'm the COO of Integrity Staffing Solutions. Integrity is a staffing company specializing in the light industrial and office clerical space. We've got over 100 offices throughout the continental United States. Been in business for 25 years. This is our 25th anniversary, yay. Me, myself, I have a pretty varied background. It is said that nobody starts out with the aspiration of working in a staffing company. So true of me. I never really thought it was a thing, but I spent most of my career in manufacturing and some time in finance. And so I bring a varied background to Integrity to look at different things. Super passionate about experience, specifically with us, our associate experience. I'll talk a lot about that today. And so happy to be here. I've been with the company for 5 years, and that's my whole staffing background, but technology, I got a passion also for technology. Our IT team reports into me along with all our field operations teams.
Awesome, Keith. So wonderful to have you here. Thank you so much. Yeah, and really quickly, for those of you who don't know about Sense, like I said, I am one of the founders. We started the company about 7 years ago. And at that point, our singular vision was to build the first talent engagement platform. We've stayed really, really true to that mission. As you can see, we have over 900 customers today. We power talent engagement at each one of these customers. About 100 million candidates are engaged by Sense every single year, and we are responsible for over 3 million hires every single year. About 50,000 recruiters log into Sense every single day. They're using that to communicate with candidates using text messaging, using chatbot, using automation, so on and so forth. And the small smattering of customers that you see underneath will give you a sense of how we actually span multiple different industries, from healthcare to light industrial to information technology to retail and manufacturing and so on and so forth. Specifically today we're talking about chatbots, and I just wanted to sort of lay the foundation on what's even driving the mass adoption of chatbots. Why is it something that we just hear about everywhere now? Everybody seems to be talking about a conversational recruiting assistant, an AI-powered recruiting assistant, a natural language-based recruiting assistant. Why have they become so important so quickly? Well, firstly, because the world has changed in terms of how people look for jobs and what their expectations are when they're looking for a job. So number one, when people are actually applying for a role, statistics tell us that they're actually applying for 12 jobs at the same time. So guess what's the job that they're going to be talking to the most? The one that gets back to them the first. If you get back to the candidate the quickest, you're likely to grab their attention, you're likely to talk to them. 56% of these people apply for these jobs after hours. So your recruiters are not working at that time. They just applied for a job, but nobody's online, and they might not come online for another 15 to 20 hours. So first of all, that's where a chatbot comes in, because you can have an instant communication with this person. You can start having an instant conversation, and we'll talk more about that in a second. The second is candidate expectations have shifted. Candidate expectations are very consumerized now. They expect the same behavior out of recruiting as they expect from Amazon.com. Hey, remember my preferences. If I ask you to text me, text me. If I ask you to email me, email me. If I ask you to reach me during work hours, do that. If I ask you to reach me after work hours, then do that. So now there are hundreds of thousands of candidates who are applying to you, and everyone has a different preference, and they immediately want answers. People will not wait days or hours for responses. At the very least, they want a disposition really quickly. Are you even interested in chatting with me? If you're interested in chatting with me, let me know that quickly. So this is the part that is driving the mass adoption of chatbots today. Now, within that, there are many, many different kinds of chatbots, and you'll hear our panelists talk about that a little bit. In Keith's world, for example, the pre-screening chatbot can be super powerful. When people apply for a role, you're probably asking them the same question over and over again. Are you authorized to work in the US? Have you ever been convicted of a felony? Are you vaccinated against COVID? Can you lift 50 pounds a day? Can you stand on your feet for 8 hours a day? If you can do all of that, will you work for $20.30 an hour, whatever it is, exactly, right? They basically are going to give you the exact same money. They're not going to give you different money, because you're going to be working next to your coworkers, where you don't want to create dissatisfaction. And if you say yes, 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 boom, there is a world in which somebody might say you have a job pending just verification of your IDs. So you could do this with hundreds or thousands of people. We have customers today where they'll get an order on Friday that says send 50 forklift operators on Monday, and this will just happen automatically over the weekend without even needing a recruiter. Now, switching gears, when you think about somebody like Christine, what's maybe more important is having a 24/7 recruiter. When you think about healthcare workers, they don't work from 9 to 5. They don't have the same shifts that we do. Maybe they're only getting a break in the evening. Maybe they're only getting a break at midnight. And that's when they want to talk to a recruiter and find out if they can get another job. Maybe they're a traveling nurse. The recruiters are not available at that point, but they can talk to a chatbot and get to a disposition. Hey, what are your credentials? How long are they valid? Are you willing to travel? How much money do you want? What kind of lodging and hotel accommodations are you looking for? Once you have all this information, the chatbot could actually throw something at them and says, schedule a conversation with a recruiter. We would like to move this process forward. And now you put the power back in the hands of the candidate to say, great, I can make 3 p.m. on Thursday work because I know I can take a break at that point. You're choosing the time, so you're very likely to show up. There are tons of stats today that you can Google and find out. In the United States, it takes 6.7 emails to schedule a meeting. We've all been there. Hey, can you talk on Monday? Nah, Monday doesn't work. How about Tuesday? Tuesday is great. How's 4 p.m.? No, 4 p.m. doesn't work. How's 2 p.m.? We all do this all the time. And here you can basically use scheduling via a chatbot, and within seconds, you're both scheduled in times that work for both of you. We have customers today who do 25,000 interview schedules every quarter. And they tell us that ordinarily this would have taken them 20 minutes. 7 emails, every email would have taken them 2 to 3 minutes. So there are 5,000 hours or 2.5 man years they're saving every single quarter, or 10 years a year, just by automating stuff like that. So anyway, that's the power of what a chatbot can bring to the table. But before I get into getting the thought leadership from Keith and Christine, we're going to throw a quick poll at you just to make sure that we can get some sense of, how many of you use a chatbot today? How many of you would like to learn more about a chatbot? And if you do, please let us know. But let's move forward and actually start talking to our panelists. All right, so the thing that we're going to be starting to talk about first is how do you integrate a chatbot into your candidate experience? So let's start there. And I want to start by asking both Keith and Christine, before we even talk about technology, on what some of your top talent and recruiting priorities are, and why those priorities actually lead to maybe needing a chatbot. So if you don't mind, let's start to talk about what some of your recruiting priorities are. Christine, I'll start with you if you don't mind.
So as a hospital, our number one job that we look for is for nurses. And we are in a very competitive environment for nursing, not only with other hospitals in the area that's our competition, but since the pandemic, all of the nurses that took traveler jobs during the pandemic, and now that they're coming back to essentially the workforce, we need ways to contact them and get them engaged with us. So we needed a unique way to basically put our job in their hands. So we found Sense, and we started using a text campaign. It's been successful for us, especially in the nursing arena, because they, as you said earlier, work those odd shifts. They work 12-hour shifts in the middle of the night, so they can get, if they get a break at 2 a.m. and we sent them a text earlier, they can respond to it. So we'll have it for our recruiters in the morning. We can ask them those screening questions, what they're interested in, what shift, what areas, and then we're able to brand it for us specifically, so they know we're UF Health, who we are. We're known in our community. And then we time it so that we can contact every candidate that responds to our chatbot. So everyone gets a response, even if it doesn't go through to the interview process, they've gotten a response from us. So maybe it didn't work out this time, but next time they get it, it may work out better for them.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on something that I talk about a lot, Christine. There are still about 60% of the candidates who report that when they apply for a job, they never hear back from a company. I mean, it's the quickest and the worst thing that you can do to sort of, diminish your candidate experience and your brand, because we're not even sending them an automated message that says, we got your resume, we'll be in touch with you, or we got your resume, click this link right here to answer a few questions. And maybe those few questions can, give you the disposition that this is not the right person for you, and you can either let them down gently or actually say, hey, and this is another thing that I talk about a lot. Oftentimes, people don't know what the right job is for them. They'll apply to a job and a recruiter might go, nah, not the right fit for you. But the recruiter doesn't know the 500 other jobs you have open. But a chatbot can actually say, how about these other 3 jobs that you seem like you might be a good fit for? It's just a very, very different level of experience that you can actually give a candidate. But thank you so much for sharing that with us. Keith, can I get some of your recruiting priorities as well?
Yeah, absolutely, Pankaj. Not unlike Christine, we've got some similarities between a staffing company and a healthcare company. There's so many. This has evolved over time. So as we thought about when we first got involved with Sense, right, we were always real passionate about the associate experience. So as candidates come through the process, we want them to have a great experience. And we recognized that a recruiter is not always available. They could be busy with another candidate. It could be off hours, as Christine alluded to. There's a lot of reasons why you may not be able to engage with that candidate right then. And a chatbot, right, enables that. It enables that speed, that interaction. And as you mentioned earlier, that's what candidates want. And everybody wants these days. We're all like that. With the age of Amazon, like, we want this thing, we want it now. So we first and foremost wanted to make sure that the associate experience was front and center, and it was a really great experience. So we're able to provide answers to questions, next steps in the path, match to jobs, all those things that make for a nice, rich experience, even when a recruiter can't go face to face with a person. And then, of course, at the executive level, and I'm always concerned with cost, right? Cost and scalability, I'll kind of tie those together. So we're always looking for ways to improve our cost structure, right? Bring costs down so we can pass along those savings to our customers. And our customers don't always have to see rate increases, right? Because in our industry, we operate on really tight margins. And so we're always looking for efficiencies. So that was an absolute expectation, is that we would be able to do. We've all heard that do more with less. It's been around for quite some time, but it's not fair just to say, hey, person, go do more and I'm going to give you less tools. That wouldn't be a good experience for the staff, right? We want you to be able to do more, but we want it to remain a good experience for the staff as well, right? So staff is able to accomplish more things that, quote unquote, are closer to the money, meaning they can have more robust conversations with a candidate at the right time, and then remove some of the repetitive nature of questions, as you alluded to earlier, things like, can you lift X, can you work Y, those sorts of things, and actually spend some time really having a better experience with a candidate. And that enables a recruiter to take on more business and ultimately lowers the cost structure.
Yeah, I mean, I could not agree more with you. A lot of people ask me this, hey, is this going to take my job away? What's happening with a chatbot? And I've always said this, that this is not man versus the machine. This is man and machine versus the problem, right? I mean, at the customers who are using this well, we actually see recruiters who were making 10 placements a month before are now making 15. Their incentives have gone up, their bonuses have gone up, their commissions have gone up. The companies are making more placements without having to add more cost structure, so their profitability has gone up. I mean, in some senses, it's just a win-win all around. But here is something a little contrarian. We just have a question from the audience, and I'll throw this to both of you and whoever wants to take this. The question is, I hear a lot about chatbots expediting experience. How are traditional, and traditional is in quotes, how are traditional candidates responding to the surge of chatbots?
I can at least answer from our perspective. The majority of candidates, and I'm not going to say all because that would not be fair, but the majority of candidates very much appreciate it. And actually, most chatbots these days don't hide the fact that they're a chatbot. Some early chatbots tried to pretend they were a recruiter or a person. We don't do that now. We clearly tell everybody, hey, this is a virtual assistant going to help you through the process, right? And so they're comfortable. If they're not comfortable, we always provide them with the opportunity to speak to a real recruiter, a live person. But most of the time, they're perfectly comfortable interacting with the chatbot.
Yes, and I will add to that. I'm glad somebody asked this question. Our chatbots, obviously across our customers, does millions of conversations a month. Across those millions of conversations, people rate the chatbot at 4.9 out of 5. When the chatbot finishes their conversation, as a practice, we always ask, how would you rate this conversation? People are super satisfied with the fact that they got quick answers to a question, even if the answer was no. So I cannot tell you, I mean, I have not seen a recruiter in my life who talked to 10,000 candidates and their rating was 4.9 out of 5. So anyway, I mean, just, a case in point there. But, the one thing I want to touch upon is, and I said this in the beginning, on why is speed important. I think we all get that, like naturally we all get that. Hey, obviously I want the answer to my question quickly. It's a constant theme, but here is some data to support that. We actually recently surveyed over 1,000 candidates, and these are candidates who were actively seeking a new job. No surprise, everybody said they wanted faster response times. But look at what we got. What can companies do to make the job search or application experience better? Number one answer by 37% of the people: faster response time for recruiters. What is the most important thing to you when you're working with a recruiter? Number one response by 43%: quick response after I apply. Which of the following has ever caused you to quit applying for a job? Slow response time from recruiters. So people will actually quit your job application if it is too cumbersome. I cannot tell you the number of customers we work with where prior to having a chatbot, they had an apply process that took 27 questions and 27 steps. I mean, somebody or the other is going to just, leave that in the middle and essentially just abandon the application. And now with a chatbot, not only can you make that pleasant, you can make that super quick, but here is the other cool part. Even if you get partial information from them, you can follow up. You can store that partial information and say, hey, we got this, we've got 2 more questions for you. If you tell us that, we'd actually be able to submit you somewhere. So, so anyway, I mean, I've become a big proponent of this changing dynamic, which is speed. So I want to talk more about that. And Keith, maybe this time we'll start with you. Tell us more about what recruiting and staffing processes look like prior to using a chatbot. What do they look now? Why is speed important? So give us your 2 cents on this.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. As I'm sitting here listening to us, I think everybody would recognize that when you're a person, we all like to think we multitask. The reality is we switch tasks, right? I'll focus on my email for a second. I'll answer a phone call. I'll do this. So I switch from task to task. Sometimes I do it very quickly. Sometimes I don't, right? But a person can only handle so much and can only do so much at a given time. So if a recruiter is sitting in a branch and is ready to see candidates, as soon as a candidate walks in the door, they're engaged with that candidate. The next candidate that walks in has to wait, right? And the next candidate that walks in has to wait. And then the one that's placing a phone call that's going on or sending an email has to wait. And so speed, as we just mentioned earlier, is so critical. Nobody wants to wait. Like, no, who wants to wait around? I've got things to do. I'd like to be working, whatever the case may be. And so the ability to answer things in real time, to connect in real time at scale, right? So I don't have to wait for the person. And that's where the augmentation comes in. And I know our most successful recruiters have started to really grasp that. They understand. And so when they're busy with another candidate, in the background, what's happening is the chatbot is engaging on their behalf. And sometimes we do that right in the office, right? We will hand them a notepad, such as an iPad, or put them on a computer. where they can work and interact while the recruiter is busy. And then the recruiter doesn't feel the pressure to rush through the conversation that they're having with the current candidate. It's a real big deal, right? And it creates a tremendously better experience for the associate that often felt rushed. They often felt that push of, hey, this recruiter is pushing me to get this thing done. And I can see, and maybe they're even getting up and going over and talking to somebody else in between, and they don't feel focused on me. So the chatbots and automations in general, right? Because Sense does more than just chatbots, right?
Right.
But all of those things help improve that experience. And so before, it wasn't possible. You just had to wait your turn. It didn't matter how you were communicating with us. There was a turn that you were going to take. And the best we could do is try to staff our teams accordingly. Now we have scale. Now we have the functionality of a chatbot with Sense, that those same associates don't have to wait in the process. They can be guided through, they can be communicated with, they can be matched to jobs, all while a recruiter is busy. And that's to me the key.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. Like, Keith, one of the things that some of our customers have done, and I'm sure, you can do that too if you look under the hood, they've actually been able to say, hey, we are now filling these jobs 30% faster. We are now screening 140% more candidates than we were before. So, not only does all of this have an impact on the candidate experience, my point is it's just a good business decision because it's actually helping you with all the metrics that as COO or CEO you care about.
Absolutely. And we have seen very similar, Pankaj, right? Time to fill is greatly reduced. What took days takes minutes and hours.
Yeah.
What took a huge team now can be done with a smaller team being more effective, and truthfully, they're happier too because they're not rushing.
That's right. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. Christine, can you tell us a bit about the recruiting processes at UF Health Jacksonville, prior to Sense, what it looks like today? How did the chatbot help? That'll be super helpful to the audience as well.
So yes, we used our job boards, our website. We posted on things like Indeed, Glassdoor, those other types of things. And we had other software where candidates could schedule their own interviews. And similar to what Keith is saying, you either have too many candidates or not enough candidates. And in the cases where you have too many candidates, let's say you have 100 candidates for one job, you have to look at each and every candidate to determine if they qualify for the job. With a chatbot, they answer the questions, and you can read quickly through the responses and determine which ones qualify for the jobs. And then you're able to contact and prioritize those candidates first. So they're not waiting as long for you to respond to them and move them forward in the application process. As I said earlier, hiring nurses is a challenge in our area because of the competition, because of the pandemic. There's a nursing shortage. So we needed to find a way to get ahead of it. And in the state of Florida, we are able to download a list of all the licensed nurses in the state of Florida. And so what we did is we took that list. It has phone numbers, it has emails. And because Sense can sense if it's a cell phone number versus a landline, we are able to send text messages with a link to a chatbot to answer questions specifically for nurses. What type of nursing are they interested in? Are they a new grad? Are they an experienced nurse? What shifts can they work? And then we can also use that, which we have used it, to send email campaigns where we can embed a video. So that gets attention. It's not just a plain old text email. There's a video that we embedded that told them about us if they weren't from the area, or if they were from the area and maybe didn't know about us. So we were able to leverage those things. And then we time the campaigns so that we know the recruiters know that we're sending the text campaigns, and they're ready to respond as soon as they get a response from the chatbot. So it may not be literally immediately, but it's within 24 hours of getting the response from the chatbot. If they don't qualify for the role, if they're just not a good fit for what we need, they can guide them to a different role that we have while they're on the phone conversation with them to say, you know, you're not a good fit for this, or you're not the skill set we're looking for, but here's another opportunity that you may not know about that we have available that you might be interested in. And then we can move them over to that opportunity. So maybe what we originally contacted them for doesn't work out, but then we still have a candidate for another position. And it's just made it faster, because screening individual applicants takes a long time. And you have to go through them to figure out who you're going to call and who's going to qualify. The chatbot, in sense, has really made that job faster for us and allowed us to more quickly respond to the applicants and more timely.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing. You know, you brought something up that, triggered something in my head. We used to talk a lot, especially during the pandemic, about this idea that when it comes to finding candidates, there is either a feast or a famine. There are either these positions where nobody's applying. You've talked about nurses. There is a huge shortage. And so what you have to do is you have to cast a wider net. If you were originally able to reach out to 20 candidates and find somebody who would be the right hire, now you maybe have to reach out to 100 candidates. Well, you don't suddenly have 5 times the number of recruiters. You're not going to be able to do that unless you leverage technology. And obviously, you can just touch of a button, send out a text message or an email to 100 people and say, I've got a job for you. Click on this link and answer a few questions, and do it that way. Or there is a feast. You put out a job and 600 people apply because, people are looking for that kind of job, or they're out of work. And now you're looking for the needle in the haystack. And again, you don't have the time to sort of, shortlist and pre-screen 600 people. You need to get to disposition really quickly, where you say, here are the 10 folks that I'm going to put in front of my recruiter. At the end of the day, you said here, technology separates us from competition. And, it just very much speaks to that in my mind.
And it also helps us target those passive candidates that may not necessarily be actively looking, but getting that text with that chatbot on it. Well, maybe I'll apply. What can it hurt? Because it's not hard.
Yeah. No, exactly right. That's, that's exactly right. A lot of our customers sort of use this as a tactic, where they'll reach out to somebody and say, hey, we see you're at the same role for 18 months, you're looking for something different. And, that's how they'll get the conversation started. So, okay, let's build on this. Obviously, you're both, thought leaders that have thought a lot about automation and chatbot, and you've incorporated some of these, into your recruiting processes. Can you maybe talk to us about what additional use cases there are? Like, how else are you using the chatbot? How else are you using automation? And I'm actually hoping this gets a little bit of the conversation going with our audience, and maybe they have some questions as well. But Christine, why don't we start with you?
So one of the first uses we had for Sense was contacting our new hires on their first day of employment. So as a new hire, your first day with the organization, that Monday morning, we send you a welcome email. Once you get settled in about 9 o'clock, welcome to UF Health. We're so happy to have you. We hope today is a great day for you, etc. And then at the end of the week, that first Friday, after they've been with us a week, towards the end of the day at 4 o'clock, we've sent them an email that says, hi, just wanted to check in. We hope you've had a great week with UF Health and everything's going well. If there's anything I can do to help you, please let me know. And we have gotten so much positive feedback from that. The feedback we get is reflective of the organization we want to be. They talk about how friendly their coworkers are, how friendly everyone is. And then it also gives them somewhere to contact. You're brand new, you don't know how to call if you have a question about your benefits, or how do I sign up for direct deposit, and those kinds of things as a new employee that you might need to know. So they're able to just shoot a quick text back like, how do I sign up for direct deposit? And I can embed the instructions in the text messages to respond. Or I have some questions about my benefits. Who can I contact? So we can either provide the information they request or provide a person for them to contact immediately. They're not having to wait. They're not having to call around trying to find out who to call about these things. So I think it has been a great additional tool for us for recruiting. we still have our website. We still have all the other recruiting sites that are available to us. But I think just being able to put ourselves in the hands of the candidate has been very helpful to us to get our name out there. We've even had applicants reach out to us via our chatbot on the web to say, hey, I applied for this job. I'm just following up on it. So even if you hadn't seen that applicant there because of the other applicants, now they've applied and you can take a look at them, like putting them in front of us in addition to us putting ourselves in front of them too as well. So I think that has just helped us a lot, that technology and the broadness of who we can contact.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. I mean, the use case you talked about is something that's become one of Sense's favorites. The idea that you don't get a second chance to make a good first impression, right? So your first day has to be good. Nearly all of our customers will do this end of the first day check-in. And I can't tell you the amount of feedback that they get from that, because what would happen is somebody is likely to say, yeah, great day, 5 on 5, it's awesome. And we have customers that then do a variety of different things. They'll be like, hey, we're sending you a company t-shirt, like, you're an ambassador for us already, go wear that and, do some marketing for us. And then there is somebody else who's like, I was just sitting around twiddling my thumbs. You guys weren't ready for me. And, this was a 1-on-5 experience. And that's where you can immediately reach out and say, sorry to hear that. Somebody will reach out to you instantly to fix that or have a conversation or whatever the case might be. But the idea that you can respond to them almost instantly to either great feedback or not so great feedback is just what will tell people that you care about them and essentially give them the best sort of talent experience, if you will. Keith, enlighten us, add some of your nuggets here.
Yeah, some of it's very similar. It's interesting to hear the dialogue here. I want to start by saying we use technology and chatbots, automations throughout our process. So there's no place that's left untouched. I think of our career page where a candidate might go to locate a job, right? There's a chatbot that sits on there that asks questions and helps guide a candidate to the right job, right? The one that matches them the best in real time during that conversation. And then there's our websites. We have a question and answer chatbot, similar to what Christine was just alluding to. So whether it's a candidate, an associate, or a customer, right, can ask questions about what it is we do or how I get my pay, or, am I scheduled for overtime, all sorts of things that would take, an army of recruiters, and it has, right? Recruiters have been doing this for a long time, but there's only so much you can do. And again, providing those answers in real time, very important to people. We all want those answers right now. So you can hit our website, ask questions, and get answers right now. What we have found, think about a new person on your staff, right? So a new recruiter for us that hasn't been trained in maybe everything yet, fields a call from an associate, they may not know the answer. So now they got to run down the answer and get it to them. Maybe that's happening in real time. Maybe they get back to them. The chatbot or just automation in general, but chatbot remembers the answer, the question and the answer, and consistency, right? It'll give them the same answer to different people, regardless of how they're asking the question. They're looking for the same information. So it's giving them consistent information, not different and changing. And then we use it throughout our candidate journey, associate journey, meaning from the time that they choose to click on that job that the career site bot found for them and matched them to, when they click apply and they start moving through the process, there's automation and bots all the way through that answer questions for them, that tell them what the next step is if they want to keep moving, and at any time allow them to jump out and talk to a live recruiter, right? So it could be, and this happens to a lot of people, I'm really motivated right now, I want a job, and I start moving along, and then I've got to go to work, and life happens for a few days, and I got to come back to the process, and they may not know where to go, like what's next. Well, the chatbot is there waiting, right? So if they jump back in to whatever link they had, wherever they stored, and they ask a question, that chatbot's going to be able to come back and tell them this is what your next step is, right? Which keeps them moving along and helps them a lot. Search and match, Pankaj, I got to tell you, I love it, right? The ability not just to ask some questions about a job, but to ask questions about what a candidate's really looking for, to look through, you alluded to it earlier, all of our open job opportunities, find those job opportunities that match whatever. It could be credentials, shift, pay rates, whatever that information is, and present them with jobs. So Christine mentioned a little bit ago about, hey, we used to do more on Indeed and some of the search boards. It's amazing to us the results that we've seen in searching our own databases, right? Because a person that was looking for something particular at the time and we didn't have it, we may have it tomorrow or a month from now or 6 months from now. And being able to reach back out to them because we know what they're looking for and match to that job is invaluable, right? It's fantastic. And that's time that a recruiter has to spend building a search, searching the database, making phone call after phone call to try to get a hold of people. That's a lot of time that they could be just spending engaging with the person. So the bot is able to augment, take care of the busy work, and present them with a candidate that's ready to talk, right? Ready to engage. So it just makes it so much better. It has turned our, so we do secret shoppers, and our secret shoppers come through our process on a periodic basis, and they give us an evaluation. How was the experience? I can tell you that before we implemented automation, so sense journeys, right, and so on, and chatbot, it was hit or miss. Sometimes it was a good experience. Sometimes it was a not so great experience for all of the things that we've talked about. Now, very consistently, we receive good ratings. In fact, we've slowed down how often we do secret shoppers because we consistently get great marks.
That's awesome. So, you touched on something that a lot of people have brought up recently, which is year after year, their spend with the job boards, Indeed, LinkedIn, Monster, Career Builder, whatever it is, has stayed the same. But they're trying to find out, they're finding out that 20, 30, 40% of the people that they hire were sitting in their own database. And they probably had more information on that than even the job boards, because they knew where they were living last time, how much money did they make last time, what was the review from the hiring manager on them. Like, they had all this information, yet habitually we're just first going to the job board instead of actually going to our own database. So the fact that, a chatbot can just keep that fresh and rejuvenated at all times, in itself saves people hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. Keith, I got this little question here, which is just an interesting question. So I'll throw this at you. It says, you've talked a lot about the candidate experience and how chatbots can help recruiters. At the same time, have you faced any challenges getting recruiters on board with the solution?
Yes, being frank, yes. And actually, I think it's related to, you mentioned a topic earlier about recruiters traditionally tend to think that it's going to replace them, right? Like, it's going to take away my job, or it's going to lessen the experience because we don't get to interact with everybody, right? And so that's a real thing. It really is. And just like any change curve, some recruiters come through that change quicker than others. What it takes all of us is to recognize, is to kind of hold their hand and show them. I've got recruiters that I can now point at that have firmly grasped what we're doing with chatbots, sense in general, journeys, and automations, and they're the testimonials to. They are now, they were the recruiters that were, let's say, the middle of the pack, not the best, not the worst, just a performer. And they are now the top performers. The top performers in our company are absolutely ones that understand what the automations are doing and what they can do, and they complement each other, and they use it like that. They're happier. their life doesn't feel so rushed and, crazy. They're producing better results. So more commission for themselves, right? More incentives. It's working really, really good. And that's from the mouths of our recruiters, right? And still some are a little bit behind that we're bringing along and educating them, and they start to see it. So, and there's all along the spectrum. So yeah, it does take a little bit.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for sharing. All right, so as we are, starting to wrap this up, let's actually talk about, some results. I mean, so there is change management required. This is a new process. This is a new technology. Wouldn't be worth it if there weren't positive results. So, and everybody's at a different stage of their journey with, automation. Technology, I think, the pandemic precipitated digital transformation for everybody. Everybody has to do that, but everybody's at a different stage. So having said that, both of you, for example, are seeing different values and sort of, unique values. So can we, just get into that a little bit? I mean, share with us, Keith, like what are some of the results you're seeing as a result of the Sense chatbot? What are some of the metrics that it has impacted in your business?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I mentioned earlier, cost is, I say near and dear to my heart. We're always trying to improve our cost structure for lots of reasons. Every organization is. One of the key metrics in the hiring process for us is the cost per hire, right? We track the advertising of that, the man hours it takes to bring somebody through. Everything results in a true cost per hire. What I can share with you is we have seen in the last about year and a half a major shift in our cost per hire structure. We are 60 to 70%, depending on the market, less in cost per hire than we were prior to implementing these automations and chatbots. It's just been remarkable, and we have watched it continue to trend down. Now we've somewhat stabilized at a super low level, and we're really happy for that. And a lot of that is what we've talked about: conversion rates within the funnel, right? So people that are coming through that don't feel abandoned more likely end up on a job than they used to, right? Because more people would abandon the process. We search our own databases more effectively, more frequently. We communicate with those folks on a periodic basis. We stay up to date on what they're looking for. All of that combines into we're able to identify the right fit for the right job quicker, right? And oftentimes within our own databases, people that have already communicated with us. So we're not constantly reinventing the whole search, right? And all of that has resulted in that lower cost per hire. The second piece that is near and dear to my heart, we measure NPS, Net Promoter Score, with our associates. How likely are you to refer our company to one of your friends, family, coworkers, whatever? And we have consistently seen our NPS scores over that same time period increase, get better. We see more promoters, less detractors, and all of that is a result in candidates and associates are getting the answers to their questions in more real time. They're getting the right answers, so they're not off chasing their tail on something that was an erroneous answer. They feel more supported, even though there's a lot of technology that's supporting them. As we talked about earlier, they're okay with that because ultimately what they want is the answer. They want the job, they want the answer, they want what they're looking for in that moment. And they're not as passionate as the who's delivering it or what's delivering it as they are in the delivery, the thing that they want. So we've seen our NPS scores trend up nicely, roughly 25% improvement in NPS scores over that same period of time, which is big because we carry pretty good NPS scores anyways. So because we take that associate experience so seriously.
Awesome. Thank you. I mean, what I really like about what you just talked about is how measurable these things are. Your NPS is super measurable, reduction in cost per hire is measurable, increase in gross margin is super measurable. So, which really just puts the ROI in the spotlight, because it's not just I mean, even though there is so much truth to this, but I like less when somebody says my recruiters are 20% more efficient, because I'm like, okay, but like, what does that mean in terms of money? But when somebody says our cost per hire is down, that's real money. Yeah, shifting gears, Christine, you sort of earlier in the discussion talked about, tapping into creative ways to source applicants. Nursing roles are obviously super hard to find. What have you seen? What have some of the impacts been in those areas?
The positive responses we're getting from the new hires. We've hired 8 nurses so far doing our text campaigns, which doesn't seem like a whole lot, but considering the difficulty in getting candidates to apply, we've gone out and gotten those candidates. I think 2 other positive responses we've had are, one, from the managers, not just in nursing, but in the other areas where we've done text campaigns.
Mhm.
Even though they might not have been as successful as we've hoped to be, they still ask their recruiters, can we do a text campaign for X job to see what we can get? The recruiters are asking us to do text campaigns for them as well. They see this as a valuable tool to their recruiting. And it also allows our employees, because we are getting the license list from the state of Florida, when we do the campaigns, we don't exclude our own employees. So they get that text as well, even though they already work here, but it shows them that we're going out and doing everything we can to fill those vacancies to help with the staffing that we have. So they see it, so they know we're working hard to fill the jobs. The managers see it as a valuable resource because they're asking us to do campaigns. And we're getting results. We're early in our journey. We're not as far along as Keith, but I'm taking notes because some of the things he's doing sound exciting that we want to do. So I'm learning stuff as well.
Thank you.
So that I'm excited about some of the stuff I've heard from Keith that we can implement on our end as well that we hadn't maybe thought about yet. So
thank you. And you know where to find him now, so you can keep
yes.
You do.
Yes,
Well, thank you. Well, I actually thank you to both of you. I mean, it's not super common that people would come in and talk about their secret sauce, and actually, give us a look under the hood. So I really appreciate that. Before we wrap up, I want to ask both of you for 1 or 2 pieces of advice that you might have for people who are thinking about automation, thinking about digital transformation, specifically maybe thinking about AI chatbots into their processes. So before we wrap, I'd love to get some of that. So Keith, maybe we'll start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Pankaj, and before I give you that, there's one thing I wanted to say, really, really key, and it's just occurring in real time right now. New Jersey has enacted a new law on the books, Temporary Workers Bill of Rights. And there's actually a lawsuit against the state right now that is suing the state because they believe it could put the staffing industry out of business in New Jersey. It's a very cumbersome law. It puts a lot of requirements of serving notices and communications to associates in real time as they're moving through the process. I will tell you, if we did not have sense right now, we may be looking at an exit from New Jersey. In all sincerity, and New Jersey's in our backyard for corporate. It's one of the biggest spots we have, but it's that cumbersome. And we are doing so much to serve the required state notices to associates at the right time with the right information that's all within our database, but would be super cumbersome for a recruiter to actually do one at a time with every single candidate, every single associate, every single time they change shifts, everything that has to do. So there's going to be more regulations coming along. We all know that. There's not going to be less. There's going to be more. Automations can really help, and chatbot interactions to fill out forms with an associate are a big part of that. Understanding what it is that and making sure that they know, do they need PPE for this job? What's the hours of the assignment? All sorts of information. So I just wanted to share that. That's happening in real time, and there's a lot of concern from staffing companies in general that that's going to cause a problem. As far as advice goes, the biggest thing I would probably say is have a plan, right? Understand what you're going to do with the automation, with the chatbot. Pick some things and go do them really, really well. So map it out, understand how you want to achieve, and then measure the results of what you're implementing. Don't be afraid to try stuff. We have tried thousands of things, and 100 of them were not successful, right? Like we tried it, like, oh, that didn't work. It's easy enough to either change it or stop doing it. But don't be afraid to try some things along the way, because you might be surprised at what you can do. And then make sure you're using, I mentioned earlier, don't fake it. Don't set the chatbot up or automation that they're speaking with a real recruiter. Don't do that. But at the same time, make sure the voice that's coming through those communications is your company voice, right? That it speaks to your values, your core competencies, those sorts of things, so that it feels like you're talking to somebody even when you're not. So you're not trying to hide it, right? But you are trying to keep that consistent communication voice.
Awesome. Thank you, Christine.
I would agree with that, having a plan and understanding how we're going to use it in our overall recruiting strategy. I think one thing that Keith alluded to earlier is how he engaged his recruiters earlier on, even though they were a little afraid because it might replace them. Our recruiters, I don't think feel like they're going to get replaced, but I think that we haven't engaged them. We're in the process of doing that now because they're not as technologically savvy as some people would be, because their job is to be a recruiter. And I think that showing them how this can help them, I don't remember if it was you or Keith earlier spoke about the phone calls back and forth to even schedule an interview, how using the calendar on a text could help that immediately, because the candidate can pick when they're available and we know the recruiter's available, so they can set that time. Is getting the recruiters engaged in doing that. And I think the mistake we made in our implementation is not engaging them early on in our process. And so we started with the chatbots and the campaigns, and now we're bringing the recruiters on board, which I think if we had brought them on board earlier, we would be a little further along in our journey than we currently are. So I think that's the main thing as far as the takeaway on how to implement it, is making sure everyone's engaged from the very beginning on how we are going to use this as a team and not just as a communication tool, which is kind of where we are right now.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, I am constantly blown away by your guys' candidness on actually letting people know, what some of the pitfalls are. So thank you. I could not thank you guys enough for being here today and sharing your expertise. Just to wrap up in the 90 seconds we have, I'll sort of like summarize this by saying that unlike what a lot of people might think, the chatbots are very easy to implement. Oftentimes they can go live in under a week. And they're always purpose built for you. They can be purpose built for every single job you're hiring for. They could be interview scheduling bots if that's where you have, some sort of an inefficiency in your process. They could be an FAQ bot if 1,000 people are just reaching out to your recruiters and saying, what's our PTO policy? What's our bereavement policy? How do I fill my expense reports? Just the kind of things that you clearly want to have a same and a consistent answer to over and over again. Or what a lot of our customers do today, using these for campus recruiting drives, a QR code, text to apply. People will actually have yard signs or actually have a QR code on a truck because they're a trucking company and they have their trucks, driving along the road, and they'll literally have a QR code and say, scan this to apply for a job. My point is, one, they're easy to implement. And second, we actually give you the ability to build your own. There used to be a time when if you had to build a chatbot, you had to file a ticket. It took a couple of weeks for somebody to do this. You can do this all by yourself, literally your own workflow, press a button, and the chatbot's ready. And then lastly, in the interest of time, I just want to thank our panelists again for sharing your expertise. They've also very kindly given their email addresses out as well as their LinkedIn profiles. So if you want to connect with any of them, or if you have any questions that you maybe want to ask them directly, please feel free to do that. And with that, Christine and Keith, thank you once more. Thanks a lot, and appreciate everybody's time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pankaj.
Thank you.